So, for homework tonight, what I'm asking you to do is actually to take notes on parts of an outline to prepare for an assignment that you're going to do for the completion of the Ancient Civilization project we've been working on all week. After the presentations, you took notes on all of the major civilizations that were presented by your classmates, and your job is tomorrow in class, you're going to fill out an outline that will actually have you choose what you consider to be the top 4 facts that were the top 4 contributions that were the most important to the development of the ancient civilizations. Now, to do that, if you want to get ready for ahead of time, all you have to do is go into your notes and you can actually choose your 4 specs tonight. The one requirement, the one rule that I'm putting in place is you have to choose a different one from each culture. I really want you to broaden your scope beyond just one civilization. Even if one group was amazing, I want you to think about all of them. You also can use your own if you would like for one of your spec sets, but you're only allowed to use the top one. And remember, the writing outline that you're doing is going to prove to me that you believe those to be the top 4 specs. So by now you should have out your note sheet that I gave you in class with the questions that asked you about what are the parts of an outline. The job for this is tomorrow in class, you're going to receive an outline that looks like the one that you see on my screen, and you're going to have to fill it out. But tonight, to help you prepare for that, I gave you a note sheet with a bunch of questions that I would like you to answer as you watch the tutorial. So we're going to start by talking about what is the question. Up here, whenever you write in history, we will provide you with what is called a question. And this question can have bias. It can have you take a side. In this case, you're kind of saying that there are factors that contribute to the development of civilizations, and you're trying to prove that they were considered to be the most important. So what you'll do tomorrow in class is you'll take the words from the question and you'll restate it into what is a thesis. So the first thing I would write down is, what is a thesis? The thesis is actually a argument statement. And it is, if you think about what you do in an argument, you're going to make a claim and then your job is to back it up. So that's the intention of the thesis. How do you develop a thesis? What you do is you take the words from the question and you rephrase them into an argument. So you would say there were many factors that contributed to the development of ancient civilizations, such as from the Babylonians, the Sumerians, the Egyptians, whatever 4 groups you decide to choose. So I'm going to put a ... but your job will be to finish the sentence tomorrow. Feel free to write this example down on your paper since this is our first attempt at writing, and you can use this as a starter for your thesis in class tomorrow. Why do you develop the thesis first? Well, the reason that you do is because everything you do is trying to prove this statement correct. Whenever you complete one of these things that I call a spec set, you have to make sure you refer back to the thesis statement. If I can't do that, then everything you do below doesn't matter. So keep that in mind. That's why you develop the thesis first, because it's the argument that you're trying to prove. Okay. Now, I'm going to skip the A statement when we do an outline, and I'm going to talk to you about why in a second, and I'm actually going to go down to what is the specific example. A specific example defined is a specific example that is a fact that is unbiased and gives very specific detail. Now, I could say a fact like the Babylonians were in the region called Mesopotamia. That's a fact. You can't argue it. The problem is it lacks detail. As a reader, I would go, where's Mesopotamia? What is Babylon? How do I even know what you're talking about? Your job is to provide as much detail as possible. So that's why when you go through and look at your notes, I really hope you took the time to ask your classmates for really specific facts. Otherwise, you're going to struggle a little bit with what you're trying to support. Now, after you complete a spec statement, what comes at the end is actually what we call a citation. So part of your notes are asking you what comes after specs. It is a citation. We use what is called MLA format, and it's usually the author's last name. Or the page number if it comes from a book. It could be the website of a web title of a website. In this case, you would simply put civilization notes can be your citation for this presentation, and you can write that down. The reason that we give citations, so why do we do this? Why does this come after your specs? Is because you need to give credit to the source that you got your information from. Okay, so you're going to go through and you're going to put your 4 specific examples in first. This is because these are the facts that you believe will best support this argument. And then you can build with the rest of the spec set. So now we're going to go up to the A statement. The A statement is called the supporting detail statement. And the purpose of the A statement is that it builds a bridge from the thesis to introducing your fact. So, for instance, if my fact was about the Babylonians and the Hanging Gardens, my supporting detail and example could be one of the factors that contributed to the development of ancient civilization was the Babylonians' ability to develop irrigation. Period. That's a bridge. I've included words from my thesis and I've categorized what I'm going to talk about. And then my specs would talk about the irrigation and how that helped to develop the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which were one of the 7 wonders of the world. Okay? So that's the supporting details purpose. Remember, it's a bridge. So when you get down to B, it's the same thing. Even though I say the A statement in your notes, the B statement is also a supporting detail and it does the same thing. It builds a bridge from the thesis to introducing this specific example. And the C and D are the same thing. Okay. The last piece of your outline before we get to the closing is called an analysis statement. An analysis statement's job is to explain how this fact supports this argument. So on your paper, I ask you to type a question that you could think about. And the question I'd like you to type is, how does the specs above prove the thesis correct? That's the question you need to ask yourself when you develop an analysis statement. This is explaining to me why this fact, which is unbiased, this is where you put your bias in. This is unbiased, this is biased. So if you wanted to know the difference, that's what I'm looking for. And you would explain to me, so the Hanging Gardens were an important contribution to the development of ancient civilizations because. So whatever culture you're talking about, there should usually be a because statement. Because why? It helped to create sophisticated and advanced ways to irrigate so that future civilizations could use that as a model. This comes from your brain. It's not going to be an answer that you're going to find in a book. But if you listen to your classmates' presentations and you took notes correctly, you should have help to help you develop your analysis statement because they were supposed to explain to you why they gave you their facts. If they didn't, I would probably not use their civilization as one of your spec sets. Okay, so that's how you do the outline. You're going to follow the same steps when you get down to B, C, and D. So you're going to notice that you're doing 4 spec sets. Whenever I say that in class now, I really want this to get into your brain. I refer to this as a specs set. All right, the last part of your outline is the closing sentence. This is not an essay, this is a paragraph. So the intention of your closing is you restate the main idea of your thesis, but now you bring it to a close. Overall, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, etc., were offered many important things, such as whatever the facts were that are important to the development of civilization. So just thinking about bringing it all to a close. Okay? So once again, you should have filled out your note sheet about the parts of an outline. If you missed anything, I would recommend that you go back and rewatch this. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me immediately after watching this. You are allowed to use your notes in class tomorrow to fill in the outline. And I would encourage that some of the starters, like the thesis starter, this question, that you write them down so that you're better prepared for class tomorrow. All right, all the best. Good luck on your outline.